On the holiday of Shavuot, we read the book of Ruth. And the story of Ruth is a fascinating one. It is one that shapes Jewish history. It captures the imagination. And the question is, what does it have to do with Shavuot? And why is it, even though it's a beautiful and fascinating story, why is it so central to Judaism that we read about it on Shavuot, the holiday we got the Torah? So a quick recap. There's a wealthy man named Avimelech. He lives in Bethlehem. The famine comes to the city. There's no food. And so Avimelech and his wife, Naomi, and his two sons, Machlon and Kilion, go to sort of enemy's territory. They go and live in Moab. And he's a wealthy man, but God doesn't like what he did, the way he abandoned all the poor people in Bethlehem, the way he left Israel. And so Hashem punishes Avimelech and his two sons, Machlon and Kilion, and they die. In the meantime, when they were in Moab, Machlon and Kilion married two women, Ruth and Orpah. They married them, and now that Machlon and Kilion and Avimelech died, you have three widows. Naomi, the widow of the wealthy Avimelech. You have Ruth and Orpah, the widows of Machlon and Kilion. And they tell the two daughters-in-law, or former daughters-in-law, tell their mother-in-law, we want to come back, we want to come with you. And the story goes, it's written that they ask her, but she says, don't come with me. Ruth insists, Orpah doesn't, and Ruth comes with her to Bethlehem. They're both very poor, and so they go, and relying on the mitzvah of leaving food in the field, they go and collect food from the field, since there's a mitzvah in the Torah that says that you need to leave the food that you have in the corner of your field, or that you drop in the field, to the poor. Then there's food there for the poor. It's sort of a soup kitchen. And so they go to Bethlehem, and Ruth goes to collect in the field of Boaz, a very wealthy man. And he gets to see her. He sees she's very special. They end up getting married, and from them comes King David, just from their marriage. And the question that begs for an answer is, why is this Megillah written? First of all, why do we read it on Shavuot? And why is it that David, the king of Israel, comes from this union of Boaz, the important man of Bethlehem, and a stranger, Ruth, who's from Moab? She's not even from a Jewish family. And why is it that this is the union that leads to David and the dynasty of Mashiach ben David? And there's a few beautiful quotes in the Midrash about this. The first I wanted to share with you is the Talmud. The Talmud says, Megillah zu en ba lo tum'ah velo tahara. This Megillah has none of the laws of purity or impurity. Lo isur velo heter. It doesn't have the laws of what's permitted and what's forbidden. Velema nichteva. Why is it written if it has no tum'ah, tahara, isur, heter? Lehodia matan scharam shel gomlei chasadim. It comes to tell you what the reward of kindness is, because this Megillah is filled with kindness. Ruth does kindness with her mother-in-law. She comes with her. Boaz does kindness with Ruth, and eventually they have the family of David HaMelech. The power of the story of Ruth is to tell us that no matter if it's Torah or royalty, everything must be founded on a strong foundation of Gemilut Chasadim, of doing acts of kindness. And that is the story of Ruth. I wanted to share with you one last story also by the Midrash says. The Midrash says that Boaz, who was a very wealthy man, lived in the time of the Shoftim. And so he had 30 children, and he married them all off. He celebrated their wedding, and there was a man in his town named Manoach. Manoach, as you may know, is the father of Shimshon HaGibor, the father of Samson. Now, until Samson came around, Manoach and his wife did not have children. And so Boaz didn't invite them to any of the wedding parties that he made. He said, look, I am making a wedding celebration. However, this Manoach, he's never going to make a wedding celebration. He has no children. Why should I invite him? He didn't invite Manoach. Boaz was a righteous man. He was a good man. But King David, Mashiach, cannot come from such a person. If there's no kindness, you can't have Mashiach. And so, the Midrash says his children all died. He was left childless. Until who comes? Ruth. Ruth is the epitome of someone who will not have anything to give him. She doesn't have family. She doesn't have money. She's a stranger. And Boaz finally comes around. He realizes what his mistake was. He does kindness with her. He invites her to his field. And Ruth is the one that fixes Boaz. And it's only through that union, which shows the ability to overcome yourself and become kind. It's only through that Mashiach comes. That's why we read it on Shavuot, to remind ourselves that no matter how much Torah we study, it must be grounded with a foundation of kindness, Gemilut Chasadim. May this holiday of Shavuot bring only good things for everyone, for Am Yisrael, and may we learn this power of kindness, of Gemilut Chasadim. Chag Sameach.